Hi everybody, welcome back to Too Cool for Middle School. It's a Saturday morning. I slept in a little bit. I finished a book. I'm sitting by the window and it's nice and sunshiny outside, but I don't think it's gonna be like ridiculously hot today, so I'm taking advantage and wearing a cardigan. It's a really good Saturday morning. I have a lot of cleaning to do, but I thought, let's do this first. I am behind on my September wrap-up video. It's already October 9th. Things have just been really busy. So before we got too much further into October, I wanted to tell you about the books that I read in September. I read 5 and I recommend them all, I think, right? Don't I? Yes. All for different reasons though, so they're all pretty different. I don't have any YA or middle grades books in my September stack, but before we get started, I thought I would also just do like a little mini haul of a few books that I've ordered or been sent that are pretty new that you might want to check out. First of all, I just have to show you again my new book that is coming out as I'm filming this in 3 days. So if I can get this video up by tomorrow, this book will be out in 2 days. So if you order it right now, it will probably just come on the launch date, I think, or very, very close to it. So if you want to be one of the first people to get this book, Major Events in American History, 50 Defining Moments from Pre-Colonial Times to the 21st Century by me, then go ahead and place your order ASAP. This is a really good one to use in your classroom. Obviously, if you're a social studies teacher, but also if you are an English teacher and you teach any book that's set in the United States, you could find some context for that book within this one. All the chapters are really accessible and short, but I tried to pack them full of as many details and just like interesting information as I possibly could. So don't forget to order this one. Since it's now October, I've ordered a couple of sort of like spookier, read by the fireplace with a cup of tea type of books. So this one was recommended on the YouTube channel Jean's Bookish Thoughts. I really like her booktube channel, and it's called The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodoria Goss. Oh, Theodora Goss, okay. And it's about the daughters of all of these kind of like gothic monsters like Jekyll and Hyde and Frankenstein and stuff like that. So I guess you learn a little bit more about those stories, but through these like teenage girls who are their daughters. So that just sounded really fun to me. So I'm gonna read this one in October. I also just ordered this one because every time Kate Messner comes out with a History Smashers book, I buy it. I have all of them. I've used them for research for my books, and I use them in class whenever I can. I think they are so good. They're really good, accessible history for middle school students, basically, upper elementary too, I guess. But they go into pretty deep detail. For me, this is kind of like the ideal, to be able to write like this much about something would be really nice. So this one is called Plagues and Pandemics. And my 7th grade English students are currently studying some documents about the Middle Ages, and then in their history classes, they're learning about the Middle Ages. And so I'm thinking I can probably use some of this in my class or like recommend this book to them. So I'm excited to read this one. I also just received this one in PR. This is by Gail Foreman called Frankie and Bug. Ooh, it's set in the 80s. That's exciting. I don't know much about it yet. They just sent it to me, but it said, "This joyful, occasionally heartbreaking, deeply moving thrill ride through the 80s has it all. A mystery to solve, boy bands, and the tender surprise of new friendships. I didn't want it to end." That was RJ Palacio. Oh, Colby Sharp got to do an endorsement. That's cool. Frankie and Bug is a must read. I couldn't stop turning pages. Loved these characters so hard. Oh, how exciting. Okay, so I'll probably be reading this one in October as well. I also got this awesome package. This is the last unboxing thing I'll show you, but look at this. This is for Tristan Strong Keeps Punching by Kwame Mbalia. I've only read the first book in the series, but I think now there are 3. We used the first book in my fantasy literature circles last year, so I haven't opened this yet. I wanted to open it with you guys. Let's see what's inside here. Oh my gosh, is this a sweatshirt? Whoa, this is like a really cool PR box. Okay, hold on. Oh, cool. cool. Yeah, I think this is a sweatshirt. What? Oh, this is amazing. Stay strong. I wonder what size this is. They didn't ask me my size. They must have just guessed. Medium. Okay, right now I feel like I'm a large because my baby bump needs a little extra fabric, but I better wear this like soon before I get too big. This is so cool. Ooh, I am gonna wear this to work. Adinkra is the symbol on the sweatshirt. Are symbols or representations of concepts and evocative meanings that were originally used in West Africa by the Ashantis. These symbols still adorn fabrics, home decor, pottery, and a variety of other materials today. Cool. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. Okay, this is amazing. Just set that there. Okay. Okay, and then all 3 books are in here. This is so cool. So these are all 3 books. So this one is Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky. This one I've read. And then book 2, Tristan Strong Destroys the World. Tristan Strong Keeps Punching. So this is super exciting to have all 3. I can't wait to put these in my classroom. I can't wait until Jensen is old enough to like read series books. He's only in kindergarten right now, but I will definitely be buying these for him and reading them with him. So it's so exciting, all the just new releases that are coming out. Okay, so all of those upcoming books, so excited about. I wish I had time to just like do nothing but read so I could get through all of them in like a day. But now let's switch over to all the books that I read in September. So this was my September stack. Pages wise, it's like a lot of pages actually. Even though I'm still getting used to the new normal of only being able to finish like 5 in a month. Last year I finished more like 10 in a month, but now back to working full time plus pregnant. So 5 is about where we land. Like I was saying earlier, all of these are just adult books. None of these are like for my classroom. They're just for me, so keep that in mind. These aren't like teacher recommendations. And this one might confuse you a little bit because it's by Rita Williams Garcia, who writes a lot of books that are for like middle grades students. And so when I ordered this one, I was kind of thinking it was a book for the classroom, and it is not, so just be forewarned. This one is called A Sitting in St. James, and this is one of my new favorite historical fiction novels, like hands down. It's so good. Despite how long it is, I read it really quickly because I couldn't put it down. It's set in a plantation in Louisiana during the antebellum period, and it's really equally about this white family who owns the plantation, and they're starting to lose all of their money, to lose all of their wealth in these years before the Civil War. And it's about the enslaved people who live on their land, as well as just like the offspring of, you know, this guy who owns the plantation. This is one of the things that is so like incongruous about the idea of like segregation, even though it's like codified in like laws and stuff. Just this idea that there's like a chasm between black and white people when there were so many offspring of these plantation owners who were biracial, maybe half black or even like a quarter black, but still remained usually in slavery, although occasionally had like a tiny bit more privilege than others. So it explores that really well. The character, I mean, all the characters are terrible. Well, all the white characters anyway. But they're also like slightly exaggerated, but in kind of like, I don't want to say a fun way, but sort of in a fun way. This book is the alternative to like Gone with the Wind. You know, Gone with the Wind is trash, but like the sweepingness of the story and just kind of like, you know, there's something about that time period and like just the extreme wealth, or at least like showcase of wealth of the people living on plantations, and like everything that they had to do to just like upkeep appearances and throw these parties and like order new dresses all the time. There is something interesting about that whole society that like we want to read about in literature or like watch it in movies, but like this is how it's done. So again, Gone with the Wind, trash. Bridgerton, complete trash. I hate Bridgerton so much. I can't believe that people read those books or watch that show. It's just so awful. The world building is so awful. The bangs, the makeup, the eyebrows, the acting, the dialogue, everything is terrible. I haven't read the books, obviously. I would not waste my time. Because there's this. You can get that same drama and romance and the love stories and everything in a book like this that isn't so stupid. So if you like that kind of genre and like set in that time period, this is the one I would recommend. Plus there are queer love stories in this book, and it's just so far superior to any of those like romance novels set during that time period. Like, this is the one. I haven't heard enough people talking about this one. This is the one. Go get it, read it, you'll love it. But it's also quite dark and like difficult to process, but so good. Okay, another dark and difficult to process one is Nightbitch by Rachel Yoder. This was, I think, the September Amory's Book Club book, maybe August, I think it was September. The main character in this book is a female who turns into a dog at night, thus Nightbitch. This is like a horror story that I would kind of put in the same category as like Stephen Graham Jones, something like that, where it's a little bit funny, also just like very much set in reality, but then like these absurd things happen, and it's definitely, as most horror is, you know, a comment upon society in general. So this is about a suburban housewife, basically. Well, not housewife, because she did have a job. She is an artist, and she like worked in this art museum, kind of like in that world. And then when she has a baby, it just doesn't work out to always bring the baby to daycare and try to work and then like come home and not have any time. And her husband works out of town most of the time. So she just ends up staying home with her son, and he's like 2 years old. The first, I think like 2 chapters are just, it's almost like this stream of consciousness commentary upon just like the absurdity of like becoming a mother and having no support and having no help and trying to figure out how to keep your job and do your job, but also be a mother and also like breastfeed and pump at work and then get home and just like all of that. I kind of want to reread that first section again, actually. It's just, it's heartbreaking in some ways, but then it's just like so funny to see it like put to paper and know that other people feel the same way. Is there like an airplane out there? I think there's an airplane flying really low. So as I was reading it, I was kind of thinking that it's like the feminine mystique, but like in horror story form, which is sort of redundant because the feminine mystique kind of like is a horror story. So this woman like feels herself like turning into a dog, like becoming feral. And then, okay, my one critique of this is that I feel like it would have been better as a novella instead of like a full novel, because I think a novella is just like a really great way to explore like this really absurd, crazy idea. But then like this gets a little bit long, and she's very solitary all the time. But I mean, I guess that's the tone that the author's going for. Like you just feel like she's by herself all the time. She doesn't really want to interact with like the other moms at the park or at this like library group, because they seem to have it together, and she just doesn't want to feel judged by them or anything. And then there's this kind of funny scene where they like have like an MLM and they're selling herbs or oils or whatever, and she kind of gets into that. I wish that if we kept it at this length, that she would have like gotten in with the mothers earlier, and that like the MLM thing could have like turned into something like magical and witchy. I think that would have been like really fun. When I read like the jacket of this one, I was expecting it to be a little bit more like We Ride Upon Sticks, which was my favorite book of last year. And so because like we already have this absurd plot, I think she could have just like taken it further and just gone into like witch mode with these other moms, and I think that would have been cool. So like I didn't really love the ending. I really liked...
Mommy?
What?
Have this for the Nintendo Tristan.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find my Nintendo Switch, but I can't know where it is.
It's probably in the living room somewhere.
Well, Mommy, how about we could play a water balloon fight?
Oh yeah, we can do that today. See, it's hard to get things done with little kids around. So anyway, it's really interesting and it's pretty short, but I feel like it is one that you need to read with like other people. Like you need to have a book club or an online book club or something, because you just want to be like, what? And like talk to somebody about it and see what they thought. So it's weird. It's not for everybody, but I did like it. Oh my gosh, this one, so good. My Monticello by Jocelyn Nicole Johnson. I know this is an early copy, yeah, Advanced Reader's Edition, and so I haven't heard much about like what this is. So I was a little bit annoyed like when I started reading it that it wasn't at all what I thought. And even like any of the endorsements on the back or like even the description on the jacket like doesn't say this is a book of short stories and a novella. I wish it had just said that, because you like kind of get invested in these characters and then you're like, wait, are they coming back? Oh, this is something new. It took me like a long time to figure that out. So I love books with this structure, with like some short stories and then an overarching novella. So last year I read What We Talk About When We Talk About Anne Frank. Love that one. It has a really similar kind of setup. And then The Office of Historical Corrections. Thought that one was excellent. So this fits right in with both of those books, and so these three are like three of my favorites. So I really liked the short stories at the beginning. Control Negro is the first one, and it's just like very gripping and you're like, wait, what is happening? And with a good short story, it always leaves you wanting more. Like you wish you could find out like what happens next, and that's definitely what happens with this one. And then the majority of the book is My Monticello. And it's set like today, maybe like slightly in the future in Virginia, and this kind of like vigilante band of white supremacists has burned down this town, and all over the United States, like communication is down, electricity is out, you know, water is no longer flowing. So it's like an apocalyptic situation. So the main character is a black girl who's in college, and then her boyfriend is this white guy from like Seattle, and they and just kind of a hodgepodge of other people find refuge at the Monticello Museum, which is obviously not like in operation because the world is ending. And so they stay there and try to survive together. They sleep in like Thomas Jefferson's bed and like use what they can inside the house. And then there's a bit of a twist about how the main character and her grandmother are connected to the house that you might be able to guess. So they're trying to survive at Monticello, fight off anyone who is dangerous, but also help anybody who needs help. So it's a really, really interesting novella. I would definitely recommend it, and especially if you haven't really read like a book, you know, that has just like some short stories and a novella. I just think it's a really fun way to switch up your reading, and I liked this one a lot. Okay, the next one is very specific to your situation. I've been reading this one like kind of most of the summer, just off and on. This is Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Pregnancy But Were Too Afraid or Embarrassed to Ask by Idris J. Abdur Rahman, MD. It's these two doctors that are like twins, I think. They mentioned that at the beginning. Oh, there they are on the back. So it's just one of those books, 400-ish pages that just kind of like walks you through all your different body parts and how they all change during pregnancy and what's going on and whether or not you can actually like do anything about that thing, or whether you just have to wait until you're not pregnant anymore for it to go away. So it's written in a really straightforward way. They have like the illustrations are kind of like cheaply done, which is fine. But the cool thing about them is that they are much more diverse than typical pregnancy books. So it's not just like a bunch of white women. Like there are Black women, women wearing hijabs. I feel like maybe not a ton of body diversity. Most of the illustrations are fairly thin women, I guess. It's better than most. So, you know, this is just something I was flipping through or can like refer to anytime something weird is going on with my body. 21 weeks pregnant right now. So it's just a helpful little guide. My biggest complaint is that they constantly talk about this app, like how if you want more information, go to this app, or like put your information into this app and it will tell you a little bit more about what to do in your specific situation, but there is no app. Like it must have disappeared from existence. So there is no app, but the book is fine. It's pretty good. Okay, lastly, I finished this one, which I read with Life's Library, and I was probably a little bit behind. Started this quite a while ago and then kind of got back into it in September. Without You, There Is No Us, Undercover Among the Sons of North Korea's Elite by Suki Kim. I thought this was a really interesting book. It's a memoir, I guess, but it's not really about like her whole life. It's just about this woman who is, she's a journalist, a writer, and she was born in South Korea, but then was raised mostly in the United States. But she does a lot of journalism in South Korea and has even been to North Korea a couple of times to write stories about these like highly choreographed and regulated events that they let like foreign press into. And so 2011 is when she goes back to North Korea as a teacher at this like Christian university. So in 2011, Kim Jong-il is in power. I mean, if you don't know kind of the basics of North Korea, pretty much everyone is starving. They have cut themselves off from the rest of the entire world, and they just spew propaganda to all of their people about their leaders and their history. And they have done a fairly good job of erasing a ton of Korea's history and just replacing it with these absolute myths about their leaders. Yet, in order to survive, like a lot of their elite students like learn English and learn a teeny tiny bit about like business, just so that they have like a few people who sort of know these things. They don't have the internet. They have an intranet that is just, you know, completely regulated and controlled. So Suki Kim goes there to teach these boys who are sons of very elite, North Koreans. She has a little bit of an in with them because she's Korean, she speaks Korean, which they're not really supposed to do at the school because they're trying to learn English. So she's teaching them to read and write and speak in English. And one of the parts I thought was really interesting is where she's trying to teach them how to write an essay where you include like evidence to support an argument. And that is just not something that can fit within the North Korean way of thinking, because whatever comes from the state is believed and there doesn't have to be any evidence for it. No one really makes claims or backs up claims. That's just not done because that's this is what it's like living under a dictatorship. So it was really difficult for her to even like explain the concept of a thesis where you provide evidence to back up this thesis. And then she's also kind of having to push back a little bit against the administration of the school because they are all Christians, and so they have a lot of, she draws like just a couple of parallels between like kind of like blind allegiance to a government and then a little bit of that blind allegiance to religion. Like she wants to show the kids like somehow the government is going to allow her to show Harry Potter, the movie, to her students, and they're all excited. But then the school doesn't want to show a film about witchcraft, so they want to censor it. And so she's like, okay, everything is being censored from like two different sides here. But the majority of it is just about like the boys and kind of like the lies that they always tell. Like she has to like just not call them out on any of their lies because that's part of her job. And it's just like, it's hard for her to, she really grows attached to these boys and she kind of gets to know them, but at the same time they are always lying and they really just don't live in reality. And she can't tell them too much about her own life because, you know, she lives in New York and she can't even talk too much about like the outside world. And so I just think that it's really important for people to understand what it's actually like to live in a dictatorship. I know that in the United States, where we have many, many freedoms and some regulation, there are many people who just get very hyperbolic in their unfounded claims that, you know, we live in a dictatorship and we have no personal freedoms. And it's just like, learn one speck about another country and about what it's actually like to live under a dictatorship and how those conditions are even like achieved and what the consequences are. It's just, it's just annoying to see so much ignorance in slinging this word dictatorship around when people really know nothing about it. Because a dictatorship is really, really bad. I agree. It is very not good to have no free thought and have the government control absolutely every aspect of your entire life. And that isn't what we live under in the United States. We can debate the merits of certain laws and regulations, but we have many of those that people don't complain about ever. And then there are certain objections to ones that are just completely based in conspiracy theories. So anyways, highly recommend this one. I feel like more people should read this and more people should just like understand like the basics of North Korea in general. So I like this one. So those were my 5. I hope you liked seeing the little haul at the beginning, a little unboxing. I'm really excited about the Tristan Strong books and all of the other ones that I have for October. I've read 2 books so far in October and I'm already excited for our end of the month video because so far the books have been really, really good. I feel like for my own sake, I'm gonna wanna see little like bump evidence like in the future when I no longer have this. When the baby's already here. So can you really see? Maybe if I go like that. This is my 21-week bump. Feeling quite large for only being 21 weeks, but feeling so much better than at the beginning of my pregnancy. Like it's like night and day. Still drinking my water every day. And now I'm hungry, so thank you so much for joining me today. I will link as much as I can down below. I try to divert you to bookshop.org as much as possible, like where I can organize those books, and then sometimes just like an Amazon link is the easiest for you also. So I have a little bit of a blend. It's just kind of how the world works in general. So you should be able to find some links below, and happy reading. I will see you next week. Bye.